I was denied the opportunity to have a glass and a spoon to start this off. For any of you that were with us last year at the Riley Wilkins Legislative and Civic Awards event, you understand why. Because I made the rookie mistake of taking a knife to the bowl of the glass at this podium and sheared the bowl right off. And later in the reception afterward, it was explained to me that that was physics and it was called shearing. And now I know more, and that is indeed experiential learning. I'll never do that again. So a little history. In 2015, Amy Bart and Judge Richard Gergel traveled from Charleston to Greenville to talk to Furman's campus and community about Turning Leaf, a program that they had recently launched in Charleston that was focused on helping previously incarcerated men stay out of prison in a system and a society that presents many barriers to successful reentry. This was part of the Riley Institute's annual summer policy speaker series, Straight Talk. We were stunned by their work. We felt it was extraordinarily promising. Pardon me. May I have some water? In 2022, my colleague Jill Fusen and I toured the then new Midlands site of what was called now Turn 90. We met some of the participants and some of the former participants, now graduates, who were working full-time with the program, and we saw this program in action. And then in 2024, we asked Amy and her team if they would accept the Riley Institute's third annual Partners in Progress Award. We are delighted that they accepted, and we're humbled to be here today to help them tell their story in our third annual Building One South Carolina Forum. So welcome to you all. I'm Jackie Martin. I work with the Riley Institute, and I love this award and this event. Thank you, Julie. Excuse me. Plastic. Yeah, so I love this event and this award. This Partners in Progress Award belongs to the Riley Institute's family of One South Carolina awards. Since 2005, the Riley Institute has recognized legislative and civic leadership in its Riley Wilkins Legislative and Civic Leadership Awards. While those awards recognize individuals for their lives of service, this award, this Partners in Progress Award, recognizes discrete landmark initiatives at work in South Carolina to advance social and economic progress, making One South Carolina a place where everyone can not only live, but also thrive. Today, we recognize the passion and the resilience and the community partnerships that created Turn 90. We celebrate Turn 90 for its contributions to economics and social progress, its reliance on a broad and diverse coalition of partners, and its ability, importantly, in this room to offer lessons to others, many of whom are in this room, who seek to advance progress in their own communities. This room full of happy warriors at work in South Carolina. A few thanks here before we move forward. Certainly, I wanted to offer thanks to Turn 90, to its staff and its board, its participants, its graduates, and its partners. Your work is advancing this state in Charleston, Columbia, and soon in the upstate, and we are delighted to recognize you. If you have been or are currently engaged with Turn 90, whether on staff, as a graduate, a participant, as a donor or a board member or a community partner, will you please stand and be recognized? Last year, we presented the 2023 award, Partners in Progress Award, to the stunning International African American Museum, and in 2022, the Spartanburg Northside Initiative Development Group, that world-class inside-out community transformation effort, received our inaugural award. If you are affiliated with either of these previous winning initiatives, please stand and let us recognize you. Thank you for being with us today. I hope you return year after year to be a part of this event going forward. I also want to recognize that many of you in this room today, including several of our speakers, have had the wonderful opportunity to engage with a diverse group of leaders through the Riley Institute's Diversity Leaders Initiative. If you are a DLI graduate, a current class member, or a member of the Riley Institute DLI team, please stand so we can recognize you. DLI graduates making change in the state. I also want to recognize our community partners, Advanced Technology International and SCETV, and our table sponsors, AV Connections, Central Community, Carolina Community Foundation, Cummins, Sisters of Charity Foundation of South Carolina, and South Carolina Student Loan. You guys have made this event and this award possible, and we are very grateful to you. So today we're here not just to celebrate, but also to learn. That is the unique nature of this event. We're going to learn from Turn 90. We're going to hear from graduates, leaders, and community partners to understand the critical issues it seeks to address, the gaps it seeks to fill, the collaborative work across many sectors of society that has turned ideas into programs and dreams into best practices, and the lessons that we can take away and apply to our own community. Importantly, I want to say that we recognize that while everyone in this room is certainly interested in justice and the correction system, we realize that just a fraction of you are directly involved in that work. But there are broad lessons here about how to think about a startup, how partners are cultivated and collaborations built, how organizational learning and resiliency and the ability to pivot as an organization come into play in long-term success, how a board can best support and nurture, and how a social enterprise can both support a mission and help to fund the work of a nonprofit entity. So listen for those as part of this story. To begin our conversation today, we will watch a short video, which is a small excerpt from a film featuring Turn 90's work. It's presented by SCETV and produced by Suzy Films. The full documentary, entitled Turning Point, will air through SCETV later this year, and we hope to do a screening at Furman as well. Our first panel conversation will begin after this video, so let's watch together.
First time I ran from the police, I would say I was 8 years old. Most of the people who raised me were in and out of prison. My mom, my uncles and step-uncles, my cousins, they all went to prison. I used to go as a visitor to see my family, and then one day, here I am going as an adult, as an inmate. I remember that ride, I was on the bus. You're going in the gate now, but this time you're going inside the institution, you know. Getting off the bus, I'm going through what they went through. Part of me had been like, welcome home.
While their colleagues are going off to college, they're going to prison. They don't have the same experience of integrating socially and economically into the world. People are in prison, just trying to survive.
My first day getting out of prison, it felt unreal.
Walking out knowing like, hey, I get a second chance.
Now what? What will I do now?
Imagine if you didn't have a house and a job. Where would you be at? Oh, you would be homeless.
We had a guy that came out with nothing. Released from federal prison, had nothing. And you go, okay, let's go to the Social Security office. Well, you need your ID and birth certificate to get your social. Okay. Well, let's go to the DMV. Well, you need your social and your birth certificate to get your ID. Well, let's get your birth certificate. Well, you need your social and your ID to get your birth certificate. So it was like, well, what do we do?
when you get locked up, you stop at that age and not know what's going on the outside. You don't know how things just progress.
A lot had changed. Cell phones were everywhere.
You go in and there's that phone that you take off the wall and call. You come out and there's an iPhone that you are using your face to unlock.
I mean, how I dial out, I didn't know anything. Then they said the internet is on here, Facebook, Instagram. I'm like, what is all that?
All this GPS, cameras.
It was just overwhelming, everything moving so fast, because in prison, you don't never see nothing move fast. When you get out, now it's all up to you what you're gonna eat for lunch.
The prices for food, cigarettes, gas.
I think the real world hits fast. Bills need to be paid, the relationships are not the same, technology has changed.
The first day they put me in front of the computer, I don't know I didn't know what I was doing, I'll be honest.
You gotta get your mind back to thinking, because your mind really shuts off in prison.
Even if you tell yourself it's going to be different, there's no way to understand exactly how. We try to position ourselves as like a landing pad for people, recognizing almost before they do that it probably is not going to be a soft landing.
Right, so we did the lesson yesterday about managing mistakes, right? And we talked about the importance, but we're gonna go back over that, right?
Well, good morning. My name is Julie Meredith. I'm the director for the Center of Critical Issues with the Riley Institute, and it is my great pleasure to serve as the moderator for our conversations today, during which we'll learn together about Turn 90 as a landmark collaborative initiative driving progress and change in our state. Before we start, I want to thank once again our partners with the SCE-TV and Scott Galloway with Susie Films for the powerful video we just watched, which truly answers the question of why Turn 90 and organizations like it are so needed, recognizing the many challenges that stand in the way of successful reentry into society after incarceration. Just to paint a quick landscape, in the United States, we have seen a 7-fold increase in incarceration since 1970, far outpacing population growth and crime rates. Nearly 10 million Americans, including millions of children, have an immediate family member in jail or prison. Racial injustices and disparities persist within this system. Current trends show that 1 out of every 3 African American boys who are born today can expect to be incarcerated in their lifetime, compared with 1 out of every 17 white boys. And nationwide statistics show that 62% of people who have been in prison are rearrested within 3 years after their release. Needless to say, the problems surrounding this issue are daunting, and the barriers seem nothing short of insurmountable. So today we will learn how Turn 90, together with their partners, are working on solutions. We'll leave with takeaways that influence the way we may think about and respond to this and other critical issues impacting our communities. So I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to share the stage with our first panel, which includes Amy Barch, Turn 90's founder and executive director, Terrence Farrell, Turn 90's Columbia Center director, Bill Finn, Turn 90's board chair and retired chair and CEO of Aston Johnson, and Judge Richard Gergel, federal judge on the United States District Court in South Carolina. So Judge Gergel, I'm starting with you. The challenges surrounding reentry clearly sparked passion in you to become a key partner to help forge the connections and open the doors needed to make Turn 90 possible. And we know that reentry in society is only possible when the structures, resources, and pathways are in place which allow for this to happen. Can you speak to the lens by which you view these challenges and how Amy's vision struck you as a viable solution to this very complex issue?
Well, in about a decade ago, longer perhaps, I received a letter unsolicited from a defendant who was at the Charleston Detention Center. He had come out of prison, committed additional crimes, and was preparing to return to federal prison. And he wrote me a letter in which he said, all my life I have viewed myself as a victim, that everyone was out to get me. I now realize I am the problem. Not my victims, not my children, not the mother of my children. I am the problem. An angel by the name of Amy taught me that. So I said to my assistant, who is Amy? And she called around and found out there was a woman named Amy Barch who was teaching a class at the detention center. I believe at night she was waitressing to feed herself, and she was being paid very modestly to teach this class. And I talked to someone at the detention center, and he told me that the best behaved prisoners were the turning leaf participants. They were the best. And he could recognize them wherever they were because they were the best behaved. So I began a dialogue with Amy Barch about what was she doing. And it was very clear to me that she was a genuine visionary. That is, she had ideas about how to reduce recidivism that were completely outside the box. And she wanted to have the tools to see if she could implement her vision. To say that letter from that young man to me was unusual would be an understatement. Most defendants spend all their time explaining why they're victims. And here she was, they were clearly reorienting the way folks were thinking. And as I spent time with Amy, it was very clear to me that she needed guidance. She needed a board. And she had, from the beginning, a remarkable board. My friend Bill Finn was a key in helping her. And there were many other strong members of that early board that would help Amy understand what it meant to build an organization. But Amy did a couple things. I don't want to run on too long about this. We'll get it otherwise. That were clearly different. Number one, she believed she needed access to her clients continuously, daily, 8 hours over 14 weeks. Dosage, she called it. How would you do that while they were people recently out of prison? How could they afford to do it? She would pay them. I don't think any reentry program in America pays its participants. But she could not envision a way to do it without them having some way to support themselves. She also had the belief that a major element of folks who committed criminal crimes over and over again was a missing personality trait, empathy. And she had the belief she could teach empathy. And anyone who has said in any of Amy's classes, and then now it's not just Amy, they got all kinds of people playing Amy in these programs. It was very clear that you could teach empathy and you could help with cognitive training, which is a fancy way of getting folks out of criminal thinking. So my introduction was we had a remarkable person. We needed to give her the tools to thrive.
Thank you. So shifting to you, Amy, you saw these vast gaps in resources for people after prison, especially those individuals with high-risk convictions like drug-related felonies, and that's what led you to get started in this work. The statistics on your website actually show that Turn 90 participants come out needing a second chance, but many, if not most, were really never given a first chance. 60% have a parent with a felony record, 78% were arrested before the age of 18, 95% were never able to finish high school. So tell us about the vision that you had for a program that could truly offer pathways for people coming out of prison.
Sure. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. So now it's my turn to tell my part of the story that goes along with Judge Gergel's story. So my interest in prison reentry started in college during a jail internship. I was completely blown away by the many wonderful people in the jail that I was working with and their many gifts and talents. So I left college. I was one of the lucky people who left college really feeling like I had a purpose and a path. I said then, I'm going to work in prison reentry the rest of my career, and that is what I have done. But it hasn't been a straight path. I worked for a reentry organization for 3 years out of college, and it was very much a transactional type of organization. So we were definitely on one side of the desk, right? And the men coming out of jail were on the other side of the desk. And so we would gather information from them, and then we wouldn't really do anything with it. We just collected it all and put it in a computer, and then we gave them bus passes, and we gave them clothes from the clothing closet, and we gave them lists of resources on pieces of paper, and then we gave it to them over the desk, and then we shook their hand, and we said good luck, and they said thank you, and that was it. And doing this for 3 years became very disillusioning to me. It felt very transactional. It felt like it was more about the way it made me feel than actually trying to change someone's life or really truly help them move themselves forward. So I quit, and I wanted to do something different, and I looked for that something different. And I think truly, if I really go back, which this panel forced me to do, I think that was the time that I actually started on the journey to turn 90. It was in the search for that something more. How do you actually create transformation? What does an organization look like that is not the them and us? It's not the one side of the desk and the other side of the desk. I couldn't find that organization, and so I decided, well, I'm just going to volunteer at the jail. I'll do it as a volunteer, and that's what I was doing when I met Judge Gergel. So the actual facts are that I wasn't waiting tables yet, and I was still working my full-time job, and I was teaching the class at the jail, but doing it with gusto, and I was doing it with a sense of excellence. Without anybody there. I would just go in twice a week, and I loved it. And I was really putting my all into it because I had such a strong passion for it. And I saw the gems that were to be, uncovered. And one day I got a summons to come to a federal judge's office, and I thought I was in trouble. I literally was like, oh God, I'm in trouble. And that was the summons to come down to this judge's office. And I meet Judge Gergel, and I still remember meeting you, and you came right up to me and you said, oh, it's Amy, nice to meet you. I finally get to meet the woman behind all the talk in my courtroom. And that was your first words you ever said to me, and that sparked this conversation. And I had not thought about starting this as a nonprofit. And so I think you underestimate your impact in that moment. You said, I think South Carolina is ready for something more. I think you should think about doing something more. And that led me to quit my job. And that led me to waiting tables, and that actually kicked it off. And so that was the collaborative conversation. And so this is a collaborative award, and it is a collaborative award. And that was the collaborative conversation in that moment that sent us on this path.
Thank you. So Terrence, you are a Turn 90 graduate and now an integral leader in this mission. So you can speak to the significant impact and outcomes of this work. Can you give us a snapshot of what it looks like for someone to be on the Turn 90 path?
You hear me? Sure, okay. So I'm gonna just basically what I'm gonna explain when I came out of prison. I came home in 2019. There are barriers, identification, jobs, things like that in front of us that's difficult for us. So when I came home, matter of fact, prior to me getting released from prison, I remember the lady saying, where are you going home to? I said, I'm going to North Charleston. And she said, you're going to be good. There's a lot of job opportunity there. You're going to find a job. Fast forward, I'm getting out. So I said, I'm going to find a job in 2 days. First day, they put me in front of the computer. Destroyed. Like, I didn't know what to do. She didn't help me. She didn't do anything. She just walked off. I'm like, this is talk register and all this. Nah, I left. And then the next day, I had a job fair. And I didn't qualify to go convicted felon. So I was introduced to Turn 90. Went there and got to the program, and they employed me full time. Help me with those, I like to say, physical barriers of, you getting the ID and all that stuff, they do that. But what made Turn 90 so special is the fact that they helped me with barriers that I didn't see, like peers, my community, family members, not wanting to obey the rules, So it was like those are barriers too. And they made me understand that those are actually the barriers that caused me to not have an ID when I get out, because those are the barriers that sent me to prison in the first place. So again, that cognitive behavioral therapy, they work with that with you. They actually create a case plan. It's tailored to just you. You do case management once a week, and they kind of like, what's the word? Drilled it into you. You know, you work on those things over and over again till you really get it, you know. And you know, and I say job fair that I went to because in the end, turned out it became like a job fair for people like me, because they laid out jobs that I could apply for and get hired for. So that's pretty much, you know, the experience coming through Turn That.
Thank you. Bill, tell us about how you got involved in this work.
Well, I was ready to retire and had just recently retired and was wondering what I was going to do in retirement. And a friend who actually was helping Amy with teaching finance in the prison called me and said, Bill, I'd like you to have lunch with a young woman who's got some great ideas. And I said, well, I'm really busy. She said, no, you need to have lunch with her. And I said, Elizabeth, okay, I'll have lunch with her. So I met Amy for lunch. And I don't think I said a word at lunch. Amy was so excited. And she talked about the program with such passion and commitment, what she wanted to do, and her thoughts about how to do it. And she went on, and I just sat and listened, and I was so attentive and engaged with Amy that I'm thinking, Amy has all these plans. She wants to start a center. She wants to do this. And I'm thinking about, how is she going to do that? This is impossible. She doesn't know how to do anything. She's never been a leader other than a thought leader. And so lunch came to an end. Amy looked at her watch and she said, oh, Bill, I have to go. And I said, Amy, well, we had some more we wanted to talk about. And she said, no, I have to go to work. And she said to me, as Judge Gerkel said, I work as a waitress and I have to be there at 2:30, so I have to leave. And Amy said, but I have one question for you before I leave. Can you help me? You know, my heart just went, how could anybody ever say no? And that was 11 years ago. And I'm still here. And we started, you know, Judge Gerkel had assembled a group of partners, and we were meeting occasionally at a law office downtown. And one of the first things we had to do was incorporate into a 501c3. I said, Amy, we can't raise any money. They just don't give money to people. They got to give. We need to create an organization. So we went through that process. We started a 501c3. And Amy, after we got all the papers, Amy read through all these papers that come from the state with a 501c. And she said, Bill, I have a question. We have to have board meetings, but what are we going to talk about at a board meeting? And I said, oh, wow, this is going to be fun. And I said, Amy, we're going to make an agenda. She said, well, are you going to make the agenda? I said, no, you are, Amy. I said, maybe we will make the agenda, Amy, okay? Let's do that. Let's make the agenda. And she said, you know, in these documents, we have to have officers too. Well, Amy, we're going to have to work on that and talk with a few of our other partners and see whether they'd like to be an officer or whether they'd like to be on the board. Mm-hmm. And it went on from there, and I have to say that it has been the most rewarding thing. I think many times, every day, my office was right near the Charleston County Jail. I called it a prison once, and one of the guys that turned 90 corrected me, no, Bill, that's a jail. But I would see men walk out of there, walking down to the bus, carrying a plastic bag with something in it by themselves. And I always would wonder, gosh, they've just obviously come out of prison. What are they thinking? And where are they going? And what are they going to do? And that thought always would resonate with me. And when I started working with Amy, I realized, wow, there's so much opportunity here. I want to be a part of it.
Thank you. So collaborative partnership is so key to the success of Turn 90. Judge Gergel, can you tell us a little bit more about a few of those other early partnerships that made this mission what it is today?
Well, I think Amy gives all of us too much credit. She is the world's greatest networker. She developed relationships with the Charleston police chief, Chief Mullen, who was himself a very visionary leader. Mayor Riley, maybe the greatest mayor in America at the time. And she connected with people like Bill Finn, who had run a multinational corporation. And, you know, she was putting these people together, and she was beginning to understand how you put those pieces together. And then she would develop partnerships. My friend Brian Sterling is here. She partnered with the Department of Corrections, and Brian gave her a building, to house Turn 90. She would just network. I remember one story where she spoke at a church, and a gentleman came up to her, and he says, "I'm very moved for what you're doing, and I want to help." And he gave her a $50,000 check. She has this ability to make people believe in her vision. And this is the magic. She has the ability to implement it.
Thank you. So Bill, digging into leadership a little further, as you and Amy and others were developing Turn 90 into what it is today, you mentioned that Amy once asked you if you were her mentor or if you were her boss, and a nonprofit consultant had advised you that you really couldn't play both roles. But it seems that by offering a blend of mentorship and supervision to Amy, you've developed this model of board leadership that fosters a culture of transparency, accountability, and trust that seems to be a superpower for Turn 90's ability to grow. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Well, I would say mentor with a big M and supervision with a small s. Amy's not the easy person. Those of you who Turn 90 know she's not the easiest person to supervise. But we had, as we grew, we had a lot of fun, and I think about the time that I came to see Amy. We had some things to discuss, and Amy said, "Well, I'm wrestling with this issue, personnel issues." We started to hire people. We had 1 or 2 employees, and I said, Amy, you probably ought to think about having a policy manual for HR." And Amy looked at me and she said, "Bill, I have worked in companies where they have policy manuals and they run everything and they're useless, and we're not going to have one of those around here. We're going to do the right things for people." I said, "Amy, that's really good, and I want to hear how that goes in the future." So it was about a year later where I'm sitting in Amy's office, and she was on the phone, and she's always connecting with people, networking with people. She was on the phone waiting, and I was patiently waiting. And I looked down at her desk, and there's a document on the top of her desk, Turn 90 HR Policy Manual. So Amy saw me read it, and Amy said, "Okay, Bill, are we beyond that now?"
I love it.
We were. But I really found that, I had so many talents that I could bring in so many areas that I could help Amy. I had chaired 6 nonprofits over the years, been involved in a lot of boards, and chaired a lot of boards through some very difficult times as well. So, and I think that to me was really important to the startup. And mentoring, you can't supervise somebody if you don't teach them. And I think I was really a teacher of maybe governance, corporate governance. Everything was new to Amy. And as we grew, it became more sophisticated. We needed more people. Amy at one point said, "Well, how do we do payroll?" We had to figure all that out, and we did, and together, and I'm very proud of, Amy was just a sponge. You only had to tell her once. And as we grew, there were new challenges, and Amy, as Judge Gergel said, was a great networker. We got her connected with people that knew real estate, people that knew law, people that could help her with HR issues, people that could help with all of these issues and made a lot of connections and used my network extensively. And Amy just took advantage of that, and we are here today because of her drive, her determination. But I never wanted her to get lost in the administrative side of Turn 90, because the important work is the work we do with the men. That's the core of what we do. And I think I was able to provide Amy with a lot of help so that we didn't focus too much on that. We focused on delivering these great services to our wonderful men that are part of this program.
Thank you. So Terrence, this same level of mentorship and trust and accountability seems to really be the heartbeat of Turn 90's organizational culture. So can you describe how this impacts the success of the program and the participants in it?
Yes. I think at some point Amy decided to hire graduates. So when I came on the program, when I came through, I came through the door, there was a familiar face. There was a guy who I had been to prison with, and I saw him. He was on the team. He was the mentor there. He was the guy you go to and talk to you. Hey, Blue. It made me feel like, okay, let me give this a try. If this guy here can do all this time, come here, learn these skills, apply these skills, and become part of the team, what can she do? What can the program could possibly do for me? I said, I better give it a shot. So anyway, I came through the program again, eventually got hired on. And guys that's coming out of prison see me, see Blue, other guys that's on the team who's been to prison. It makes it easier for them to want to come talk to us when they have issues. It makes it easier for us to build a bond with them that goes beyond 9 to 5 hours. Because sometimes we talk to them after 5. It goes beyond Monday through Fridays. We might hang out with them on the weekends. And all that helps because you coming from prison, it's a lot. You got a lot going on. You got a lot you're trying to overcome. And so to have a relationship with someone who's been to prison and who's now out here doing with what they want to do, it's major. It really helps them move forward, push them forward. So that's what Turn 90 do.
Absolutely. Amy, I want to go back to the lesson that Judge Gergel was talking about earlier, that most people with prison sentences are not irredeemable, but they need support and opportunity to overcome barriers that often lead to recidivism rather than reentry. So how do you measure Turn 90 successes, and how's that measure shifted over your time in doing this work?
Well, I think that this conversation would be incomplete if we didn't talk about some of the setbacks we've had along the way. I see my Sisters of Charity friends, Greg Mullins in the audience. People that have worked with us closely understand how many setbacks we've had, which has, framed our success measures along the way. So after the conversation with Judge Gergel, and I was waiting tables trying to get the nonprofit started, I always did a lot of research to understand what has worked, what the research shows us, what other impact evaluations have shown. So kind of had my eye on the research, and I had high confidence, as you can probably hear, right, that this was going to work. And I was talking to Greg Mullen this morning, and I was laughing at myself because I remember him asking me that we had a group of people that were getting sentenced to turning leaf at the time, getting ready to get released, and I remember him asking me, Amy, how many people do you think are going to make it? And with all conviction, I said, all of them. And that is devastating when they started falling off one by one by one by one. That was a very, very difficult place for me to be. And so we completely reframed the entire program. We went from an alternative to prison program. We shut the program down after a year, fully shut it down, and then did a complete revamp on it for 6 months. So it's kind of the kiss of death in a nonprofit in which people are funding you to not serve a single person in 6 months. And that's what we did. And our funders stayed with us. I mean, I wanted the funding to stop so I could quit but not quit. Like that's where I was, but they kept funding me and I kept going, and eventually we restarted as a reentry program, and I still remember going out and putting up signs on bus stops and in Bilo, and trying to recruit people, because I thought, well, no one's going to come. And we restarted the program with 2 people. And we got going, and then we eventually started getting big enough where we started placing people on jobs. We didn't have the social enterprise at the time. And then we started tracking that, and we started realizing, oh, no one's keeping their job. So then we got that far, but then we got people in, but we couldn't get anyone to actually stay employed. So we literally started a screen printing business to try to help people maintain employment that we got for them. So our measures of success have just kept moving and moving and moving. We finally got to the place that we felt like we had something that was working, right? We were helping people succeed in their lives. And I think that brings us to a more current level or measure of success, which is we don't want this to be Charleston's thing. We don't want this to be Columbia's thing. Like, how can we take this and make it bigger than ourselves? And so I think that's our success measure today is, can we take this beyond Charleston and Columbia? Can we take it to Spartanburg? And then what's next for us?
Amazing. Terrence, we've been talking a lot about what success means for the participants who are going through Turn 90, but I'm hoping you can widen the lens for us just a little bit. What does this program mean for the families and communities connected to Turn 90 graduates?
It means change, generational change. I got a 3-year-old son who I take to school every day. We stop at Turn 90 every morning. He helps me open up Turn 90. He's an honorary staff member, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I go get him and I bring him back, and we close out the shop. So I say change because when I was his age, I didn't see my mom go to work, see my dad go to work. I didn't see any of that. When I went to school, I saw the guy on the corner selling drugs, and when I got out of school, I saw the same guy on the corner selling drugs. So for my son, he sees different. Like for him, he have an opportunity to. His risk, it's not going to be like mine. He have a much greater chance of becoming something different, doing the right thing in life, and all that's because of what Turn 90 does for me and these guys. It's put us in a position to change the outcome for the next generation, and they can change the outcome for the next generation. So that's what Turn 90 does for all these guys and here. So I'm just getting a little emotional.
Amy and I were talking last night about, certainly how when you're doing direct service work, sometimes it's hard to see how you're making a difference in generations and change and prevention work. And Amy, what would you say to Terrence's answer there? I think you might need to push back on your thoughts on that, just a little bit about your impact.
Right. Thanks, Julie. Yes, it is, you do have to recognize each person, and like whenever I dig in and I meet family members and I meet their network and I see how much ripple effect is coming out of just this one initiative, it's astounding.
Absolutely. Bill, anything you'd add to that?
We're making a big difference, and I am hopefully we will be able to continue to make a big difference, and we will be able to make a difference nationally. There's no reason why we can't be a model for the Turn 90 for this going forward across the country. Absolutely. So Amy's always had that vision, and I've had to slow her down at times, say, Amy, we don't have enough money right now to do this. But we managed, and we managed to continue to grow and grow and grow, and that's through efforts of a lot of great people, a lot of great staff that Amy has with her helping, and a lot of great partners that Judge Gergel's had pulled together.
Yeah. Judge Gergel, from your perspective, what would you say about the broader changes that can happen in our state when true pathways for reentry exist?
Well, let me just say about when we're talking impact for a second. Amy only targets the highest risk clients. And those have an average recidivism rate around 75 to 80%.
Right.
Amy's recidivism rate is 22%. I don't know of any program in America and I remember when Amy had her first person not make it through. She was crushed. And I said, Amy, you don't bat 1,000 in this business, okay? You know, you're gonna, and she's never given up. You know, one of the trademarks is she doesn't give up on anybody. And I remember telling Amy a story that had been shared to me by Judge Richard Fields, who had been the Charleston circuit judge, trial judge for a generation. He told me right after I came on the bench, he says, you know, he says, I've sentenced thousands of people. And I find about 10% of them are bad seed. You need to give them every day you can. The other 90% are misguided. Help them find the way. Amy let me know she didn't believe in that 10% number. She believed all 100%. I'm not sure she's right about that, but the ambition and the thought and the motivation is fabulous. There are tremendous barriers for reentry. We over-incarcerate. We over-stigmatize people who have been in prison. I had one business leader tell me, I don't hire convicted felons, I hire turn 90 graduates. Because the graduates show a difference in their lives. You know, when I look, one of the things I get when I sentence someone is a pre-sentence report, and it's a detailed 20, 30 page report about the background. And there is, as Terrence was talking about, just generational trauma going on. Multiple generations of family members being incarcerated, drug addicted, dysfunction, mental illness. What these men face in their lives is extraordinary. And what Amy helps them do, what Turn 90 helps them do, is to realize there is a path out of all of that. And, you know, many of them, I'd say an overwhelming majority perhaps, are not high school graduates. And it's not so much that the schools have failed them, that they're just at that point with so much trauma in their lives, they just cannot navigate the world. And they end up on the street at 15 and 16 years old with no hope and no skills. And a lot of them become drug dealers. I mean, that's the path. They don't see any other path. And the remarkable contribution of Turn 90 is it shows them that they can be part of the American mainstream.
Amazing. Anything you would add to that, Amy?
I think we're obviously a very relationship, person-to-person program, but we're also a very place-based program. I think it's important to have a place for people to come and feel safe and feel like it's a landing pad. And I've joked with people that I'd like to have a welcome home mat out front because I want that to feel like a place that people can come and land. And I think the guys need that. I think they need some place to go. So I think we are an immersive experience that lets people feel safe, maybe for the first time, and let their guard down enough to become somebody different. And so I think that that's one of the things that makes us special. And one of my staff talked to me yesterday as I was talking to him about this event about our standard for excellence also. I do have a standard for excellence. And I think that I'm unapologetic about it because I feel like the guys deserve the best for once in their life. Let's just give them the best, right? Like, let's give them the best. Let's not give them the, things look kind of run down and, the doors falling off. Let's just give them the best because they have never had the best. In all of those systems in life, they didn't have the best, and we know where that led. So let's give them the best and see what happens. So I think that's integral to our success. And everybody knows that I want the best, right? Everybody on my team knows that I'm always pushing us for all the little things because y'all deserve it.
Amazing.
think there are 20 full-time employees at Turn 90, and 12 are clients, former clients. I mean, that shows you how that mentorship has converted into real skills.
Amazing, and thank you all. Yes.
I was tempted to get that welcome home at and put it in front of the building. I just because you said that, and just because that's how I felt when I went to prison, when I first went, because we do so much stuff.
Home when you went to prison.
And we just counting our time till we get there. But at Turn 90, with us having a building, a physical building, I wanted to put that in front of that. So.
I mean, to be clear, that Terrence had never legally worked before he came to Turn 90 at 41 years old. It's just level set how talented this man is. He's fully running my Columbia Center. He had never worked ever. That is how talented he is. Incredible. And he's not alone.
Incredible. Did you want to say something, Bill?
I always say that the remarkable thing about Turn 90 is every location and every part of our staff is they care. We are a truly caring organization, and it's reinforced every time I go out there and sit in the class. I love sitting in the class because I learn a lot about myself also.
Yeah.
But it's caring, and it's caring that makes us special, and it's caring that is our future too. So we care.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And so to recap, we've taken some time in this first panel to learn about how Turn 90 came to be and the pathway it opens for participants to turn towards a life beyond rather than back to prison. We've learned about the necessity of resilience, collaboration, trust, and transparency across an organization, and how these values lend themselves to this transformational work. Hopefully, we've also seen how these themes intersect beyond solutions for reentry alone, but to solving other critical issues that seem cyclical and unsolvable. So I'd like to thank our first panelist for joining us, and now I'd like to welcome our second panelist to the stage. But thank you, Judge Gergel and Bill and Terrence, for being with us. And while our second panelists are coming up to the stage and getting settled, I'd like to take a moment to turn your attention to the QR code, which you can see on your screens and then also in the middle of your tables. If you have a question that you'd like to ask our panel at the end of our conversations today, please submit your question digitally through that QR code. Our team is going to be looking at some of your questions, sifting through them, and then Jackie will be back up at the end of this next panel to ask a few of those in just a few minutes. So now I would like to welcome our second panel for this morning. We have Kay Cross, Director of Human Resources and Organizational Development for the City of Charleston, Malik Elamine, Turn 90 Shop Foreman in Columbia, Brian Sterling, Director of the South Carolina Department of Corrections, and of course remaining with us is Amy Barch. So in this conversation, we're going to shift to examining how Turn 90 is forging pathways not only for its participants, but also for the communities it serves, turning away from deep-seated stigmas and turning towards justice and progress in South Carolina. We're going to look at how our state has traditionally viewed and responded to citizens reentering life after prison, and how Turn 90, along with other reentry programs and key partners, are moving the needle in South Carolina to become a place where successful entry can happen. Brian, I'm going to start with you. So South Carolina Department of Corrections history for returning formerly incarcerated citizens to public life has been a struggle, as it has been in most states. And you and your team have been integral in making much needed systemic change. Can you tell us more about what this process looked like in the past and the progress that you all have made and are continuing to make today?
So I was Governor Haley's chief of staff, and she brought me in one day and said, I want you to take over the prison. The previous director had a stroke, and a great guy, Judge Byers. And I looked there and I said, whatever I've done to make you mad, please give me 5 minutes to apologize. Because I knew, as chief of staff, what a tough job it was. So I took over October 1st, 2013, and I heard about how we were dropping people. I don't know if anybody in Columbia remembers the Greyhound bus station. And I went down there, it was actually Halloween, drove through 5 points because I lived above 5 points and drove through 5 points and couldn't figure out what was going on because everybody was dressed in costumes. I was kind of half asleep, but I showed up at the bus station. I saw all these co-eds from Allen and Benedict walking up the hill at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I saw all these folks that were just released from prison, and they were in prison uniforms. The law says we have to put a stripe on them, on the uniform, so we took the stripe off, and they were going home in prison uniforms minus the stripe. There were drug dealers there, there were prostitutes there, it was a big party. These folks didn't have a chance. I mean, they were immediately being, let's start dealing drugs, let's do this. So I called Sheriff Lott, I said, I need you to protect these people that are leaving and run these folks off. And I went back and he sent a deputy down there. I went back to my staff and I said, we've got to do better. We're setting these people up for failure and not success. So we started there and we started doing some things. We actually changed, and it changed during COVID, and we're going to change it back where family members can come now pick you up. We encourage that with the reunification. I met with Cheryl Stanton, who was in charge of the Department of Employment Workforce, and I said, I've got all these folks leaving. You've got the jobs. Why don't we get together? So we did the first workforce training center inside a prison in the United States. It was at Manning Correctional. Simple things like explaining incarceration. It's going to come up. And if you lie about it, then that's a disqualifier. So I was incarcerated, but I did the following. I did at Manning or wherever, I was involved in Turn 90. I got my GED. Average education level is 10th grade. DMV, let's get them a driver's license. We used to send a driver's license home. It's a 10-year driver's license in South Carolina. You can't do anything without a driver's license. You can't go in a federal building. You can't apply for anything. So we do that. Jake has been working in his team on Social Security cards and things of that nature, just simple things. We now hold those and we give them to them when they leave. We have a person that specializes in formerly incarcerated at the DMV that we have to call now if there's a problem. I'll give you a quick example. Had a guy, Bluff Road. I love my friend Kevin Schwedo, but going to DMV can be a tough experience if you don't know what you're looking for. Guy walks in, he's under supervision, he's with his sister, and he wants to get an ID, he wants to get a license, and they're telling him he doesn't have the right stuff, and he's getting madder and madder. When I took over, we would tell people, we don't want to hear from you. Don't call back. You're done, we're done with you. And now we say we're with you for life. If you need something, call that warden, call who you work with, call us. Call the warden. The warden called the DMV headquarters and they said, go to, I'm making up a number, go to line number 2, that person, I'll walk them through what you need. He had everything he needed. He likely would have been arrested because he was getting so mad and caused a scene. It was just a simple communication, as folks have talked about. Employers, talking to employers, asking them if there's employers in the room, please hire these folks. They are like sponges. Every employer I talk to, and I'll talk about this later, loves hiring these folks. I had an employer tell me one time, I'm not going to hire. The sheriff told me not to hire folks. I called the sheriff and I said, this is just a wrong way to think about things because they're going to need to eat. They're going to need a way to feed their families. Connecting with their families, mental health help. We're the largest, as Judge Gergel mentioned last night, 35% of our population is mentally ill, 45% drug addicted and mentally ill. So we're servicing those folks. Anger management, soft skills. Got to get up on time. You got to go to work. You show your son, as was mentioned earlier, go to work and then you work a full day and you do it over again. Education's important. We have on the education model, we're starting a technical high school. Average education is 10th grade. 85% leave in 5 years, 95% leave in 10. This is public safety. I mean, what you're doing is public safety. You're stopping future victims, you're stopping future violence, you're stopping, the generational, you're making generational change. And what does that mean? That means public safety, that means saving tax dollars. It's vitally important. And we're doing partnerships with all agencies across the state.
Thank you. So Malik, in reality, we know that the roadblocks after incarceration remain pretty high and pretty daunting. So from your role as shop foreman, how would you describe Turn 90's social enterprise as an important layer of support for people after prison?
Okay. First, I just want to say good morning. I'm thrilled to be here. Turn 90 just to accept this award. I was excited about doing this. But I got two stories. If I didn't come to turn 90 when I first got out of prison, I could have easily both times went right back. Just to talk about what you said, the DMV. I went to the DMV. I was in the program and I needed to get an address changed with the South Carolina address. And just because I was in the program trying to be on the right track, the lady at the window was giving me such a hard time, and I just couldn't understand it. So one of the facilitators who taught at in the program at the time, he had took me. And so he was, he didn't walk up to the window with me, but he was sitting in the back, and he was looking, and he could see the frustration and the build up on my face, like, because I'm just trying to get a simple address change from North Carolina to South Carolina. So he walked up, he saw my frustration. He walked up, asked the lady, okay, so what does he need to do? So she told him, and anyway, we got my address changed, and that turned out good. And then the other story, about 6 months later, I went on my first trip. I think I went to Tennessee. And coming back, driving from Tennessee, I stopped at like a Bojangles, and I was in line. And right when I was getting ready to go order my food, a guy just cut in front of me, and I was like, excuse me, sir, I'm next. He was like, he cussed me out, got real irate. And I froze, I had to really think back to like the skills that I learned in the classroom setting, counting to 10 backwards, recognizing sensations, feelings. And in the way that the cashier, I guess she saw the shock on my face, and she was like, no, sir, you are next. So I made it out of that situation. It could have easily turned out, devastating, because I would have went right back to prison. The social enterprise, going every day, Monday through Friday, breaking down the skills through training every day, then going into the work setting. That helps coming out of prison, so you can be successful in all walks of life. So that really helped me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thinking about the participants that you're now mentoring and training up to be able to think about life even beyond turn 90, tell us a little bit more about what it looks like as you're training for those job skills, for those soft skills, which, hey, we all need, counting to 10 backwards. Gonna use that.
Yeah, so like, just given a second chance, having somebody believe in me. Like, I wake up every morning as I'm driving to work, in my mind, I'm like, I believe in all the guys that's in the program, my team. I constantly try to drill in them, like, we can be better. We can be great. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So, Kay, employment opportunities are key for anyone to live and thrive, and you were instrumental to the city of Charleston becoming Turn 90's very first job partner. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about that process that you and the city went through to ultimately become a second chance employer. What supports existed that made that successful, and how did the city's culture evolve and change?
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Very proud to be here this morning, and very proud to have been turning leave at the time, first employer partner. You're going to hear me talk about some of the same names you've heard already. I had the honor of working for Mayor Joseph Riley for 19 years, and I would agree with Judge Gergel, arguably the best mayor in the country. But I got called to a meeting, and I was not briefed on what the meeting was about, but I got called to Mayor Riley's office, and Amy was there, who I had never met. Judge Gergel was there, who I had not met, but I knew of Judge Gergel, of course, and Chief Mullen, who I would also agree is a visionary leader, and I had worked with him for many years. And then they all explained to me that they wanted to participate in the Turning a Leaf program, which would involve hiring convicted felons.
And you're an HR director.
I'm the HR director. And so it was a little surprising. I had never heard of the program, but Amy explained, kind of what she was doing. And I left the meeting being a little uncomfortable, I'll just be honest. I was a little uncomfortable with the idea because being an HR director, my job was to review background checks and make hiring decisions. So I really had to get my head wrapped around what this was going to look like. So I slept on it. I did have many conversations with Chief Mullen, who I admired greatly, and he gave me a lot of confidence to move forward. Amy and I had more conversations, and as I learned more about what the program actually was, I found myself getting excited about it. And I got my HR team excited about it. And then the next thing I had to do was go to department heads and get them to get excited about it and accept and get to the point where I was of wanting to engage in this program. And I'm just going to tell a quick story. In our very first class, we hired 15 at one time. We hired 15 participants. And Amy was, of course, there. I had my team so excited. We had gift bags for all the guys. We had food, buffet food. It was like confetti, everywhere. It really was like a party. We were just really that excited. And afterwards, Amy was like, "Hey, that was really nice, but I'm trying to give them a realistic employment experience. It's really probably not how it's going to be. Bring it down." Right. A little bit. But anyway, it was great for us. Of course, not all 15 of those participants made it. We learned a lot. I was really impressed with Amy's ability to pivot and make changes as we learned together, kind of what worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
But it really has been a wonderful experience for us. We actually, one of those first 15 we had employed with us just until last year. And now he's moved on to a private employer. And I think you just told me last night, bought a house. Just very proud of some of the success stories we've had.
Amazing. Amy, I know that the city of Charleston set the bar pretty high for job partners. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think it was such a blast in the past talking to Kenny. She and I have not talked in so long. It was a very, very cool experience for us to reconnect right now. But I was just thinking about that meeting that she just set up in her mind, in which I'm sitting there with, the mayor and the chief, and I was desperate. I was in a desperate state because I could not find anyone to hire any of the guys, and I'd already set this whole thing up and made promises. And I really, really, really needed somebody in that moment to step forward. I really needed it. That was probably the most I'd ever needed anything to make this whole thing come together, and I just have so much gratitude, and that's what I told Kay. I said, someone needed to go first. Like, nobody wanted to go, and someone needed to go first, and really it was Chief Mullen and Joe Riley. They went first, and I remember the mayor saying, if we're not willing to do it, how can we ask anybody else to do it? We have to do this. We have to go first. And I think that this, even though that was my biggest first, I continue to ask people to go first, whether it's in their company or we're, looking to open a location in Spartanburg now. I'm going to need first in Spartanburg. So like I needed, my first employee I ever hired. My second employee moved his whole family from Charlotte. He still works with me. So there's been a lot of firsts for me. And that's what the city was for me in so many different ways. They were my first.
Yeah. So, Brian, what are some of the common perceptions that may prevent companies from really considering second chance employment? And could you tell us a little bit more about some of the best kept secrets that actual second chance employers are finding?
Sure, and to finish my story about Governor Haley, after I got over the initial shock, she said, Brian, these folks are getting out. They need to be better than when they came in, and we set about doing that, and I said about learning about tax credits. So there's tax credits for hiring folks with records, there's bonding, there's training credits, and things of that nature that companies can take advantage of, and that's what we sell when we go talk with companies. There's some international major manufacturers that are hiring our folks, and they are thrilled. Whenever I see them, they come up and say, these folks just want a second chance. They want to work. They want a normal life. They don't want to go back to prison. And we're just thrilled that they're here. Some of the, I think, misconceptions are that, it's kind of a rabbit hole to go down that path, but, they're going to continue in their criminal ways. They're going to have addiction issues. They're going to have this, that, and the other. And I'll say, look, if you look at someone's record when they're in prison, and we allow them to go back and show what they've done, show their work credits, show their education, show exactly what they've done. And I'll say, if someone's just been in their cell all day and, messing around, getting in trouble and everything, then, that's probably not a person that you want to give that second chance to, because they haven't shown. But the vast majority, vast majority, a light just kind of goes off in their head at some point in time, and they think, I've got to do better. Maybe it's they missed, a wedding, a family wedding. Maybe it's they missed being at a funeral of a loved one, or maybe it's just, our correction staff. Sometimes it's just one person saying, hey, get your life in line. What's going on? I mean, maybe they didn't have that. Someone comes up and says, we've got addiction treatment counselors who were formerly incarcerated now, doing medically assisted treatment. And they've been there, and they can say, hire this person. I know this person has turned their life around. So I think there are misperceptions out there, but I think we're overcoming those, and I think we're knocking down barriers to help people. The ultimate goal, and we've re-engineered over the years how we do reentry. We used to send people, they'd have jobs or whatever, what have you, either outside or inside, and then we'd send people to Manning for their last 6 months. And we took their job away, and they didn't have any money when they left, and that first month's rent might as well be, if you have $5, it might as well be $1 million, because you have to pay the deposit and everything else. So we're redoing this where you go to Manning and then you're going to go out and work. So the only thing that really transitions is where you're going to lay your head that night. And then for the medium and maximum, we're doing that with our prison industries, where they can go to prison industries and work there on their way out. I just want to tell a story about Amy and how important she is. So with sentencing reform and what we're doing with recidivism, we closed the Coastal Pre-Release Center down in Charleston. And a guy named Bill Tootin called me. He works for the county, and he said, hey, we want this building. And I said, you got to talk to Amy first. And, he's the county administrator. He said, well, who's Amy? And I said, well, you haven't heard of Amy? And he said, no. And I said, well, you're about to. I said, here's her number. Give her a call. I said, I'm not releasing this building until Amy gives me the approval, and y'all find another place for her to go. And that took some back and forth and everything, but that's how important Department of Corrections thinks Turn 90 is in the building here. She also wanted to come to Columbia, and I said, I don't know, I think maybe Spartanburg or the upstate might be a better place to go. She said, no, I'm coming to Columbia, and I kind of hung up the phone. I said, well, good luck. So a lot of people have tried to come to Columbia, and it hasn't worked. They usually goes to Charleston or Greenville and then comes back. And sure enough, I got invited to the opening a couple months later, and she is here, so she can't be deterred. But I would ask any companies out there, if you know anybody, please hire these folks. They do a great job. They'll show up on time. They're thirsty to work. They're thirsty for knowledge, and very trainable. And if you have a skill that you need us to train people on while they're incarcerated, we will absolutely 100% do that. We teach warehousing. We kind of follow what happened at the port. Governor Haley, Governor McMaster are very good about recruiting businesses, so we see what's happening. So forklift operating, we had a forklift donated. We teach that. Electrical, mechanical. I told this joke last night, and I tell it, and my staff's going to roll their eyes. But I was in private practice as a lawyer, and my drain backed up. We teach plumbing and welding. That's a big thing. And had a plumber show up, and he poured something down my drain. He was there 15 minutes. And I got the bill, and I said, that's more than I make as a lawyer in private practice an hour. He said, yeah, I used to be a lawyer too. And that, but that got me thinking. But these are jobs that pay very well. And my goal with a lot of these jobs, what we're doing with welding and other things, brick mason and things of that nature, is that they go out and start their own companies, because that's how, and Bill knows this, that's how you become successful. And then they hire other people to come work for them, and they get the benefits. So they become the boss, because that's ultimately in America how you kind of, reach the goal that you want to reach, which is owning your own company. I think a lot of these folks want to do that. Right. They came to prison because they made bad choices. And we help re-engineer kind of like at the Bojangles, you know. Your temper probably may have gotten the best of you before you kind of slowed down and thought about the repercussions, even though he was in the wrong. You know, with your history and everything, it would have been difficult for you to overcome that. And you took a second, you counted backwards, and you walked away, and look where you are now. Simple things like that is what we teach. And it's some of the things because working can be frustrating, and you get frustrated with your you know, other staff members. You got to kind of learn to think with your mind and not your fists.
Yeah, yeah. Kay, is there anything you would add, thinking about, you know, you had to overcome that initial HR thought of, oh, the city can't do this, to, yes, we can. What would you add to anything that Brian said for those who may be thinking about second chance employment?
I would just say that it's very rewarding to feel like you've had even a small part in helping to change someone's life, to give them an opportunity they may not have otherwise had. I will also say that some of the supervisors who were a little resistant and a little reluctant in the beginning, it was very gratifying for me to see them come around, because as they worked with these men, they realized these are people. They're not just a statistic. They're not just a background. They're people with a valuable skill set. You know, in the city of Charleston, we have 1,800 employees. We're a fairly large organization. We're always looking for talent. We're always looking for people. I would just encourage other employers to consider this as another way to hire, because as we know, it's a little bit of a tight labor market right now. It's been a little challenging for a few years. So take advantage of this. There's a lot of untapped talent there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, shifting gears just a little bit to thinking more about Turn 90's social enterprise. Malik, we understand that Turn 90 is really trying to scale up the social enterprises that you have, from being a very small scale employer with just a handful of your graduates to being able to offer longer term employment to more as you're building up subcontractor relationships with larger companies. And at the same time, you're expanding to Spartanburg this fall. So can you tell us more about these expansions and how you hope they will impact people's experience as they're coming out of prison years from now, as opposed to what it looks like today?
Yeah, I will. I just think it could go real big nationwide. Right now, I feel like the work that we're doing now, we laying the groundwork. You know, we doing the hard part. The guys are coming out. We kind of switching gears, doing the logistics. That's going to be up there in Spartanburg, and it's just it has the drive to just continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, amazing. Amy, anything you'd want to add about the purpose behind these expansions?
Bill talked, I think, a little bit earlier about us wanting to scale, and I kind of mentioned it too, because that's part of our measurement of success. When we opened the Columbia location, we knew we were going to have implementation issues, but we just didn't know what they were going to be. And as life has it, what you think that they're going to be are not, and it's something totally out of left field. And so we had tons and tons of implementation issues around our social enterprise, scaling that portion of it. The program piece scaled beautifully. The classes, the social work, sending up my program graduates to run it. That center, if you don't know, is completely run by program graduates. So the whole thing is just being run by them. That all worked beautifully. The print shop, the screen printing business was a complete nightmare. It was so hard at every level, and we just didn't anticipate that. So hard to find new customers in a time frame that made sense for us. We cut the ribbon on everything in one day, and then we just realized, like, oh, we don't have any work. So it was just, and then even running 2 print shops has been very challenging for us. And so thinking about us as an organization, we went from, when we had one center, we were employing 50 people out of prison, and then the next year when we opened the second center, we employed 135. So the pressure that put on our business was incredible, and we really, in that transition, reframed ourselves from being a program to being an employer. We went from being a program to being a social enterprise.
So we look at ourselves now as a social enterprise because we're employing more than 100 people out of prison. When we started recognizing that we needed to put more focus on the business, we recognized that we needed to expand our business model. So we decided that we needed to start a second business to fulfill our scaling plans across South Carolina, which the purpose is to evaluate the program and really understand if what we're doing is working in different communities and at scale. So our growth really does have a purpose, and I never wanted to start a second business. Like, I did not want to start a second business, but really we have to. If we want to fulfill the strategic plan and really understand what our capabilities are, we needed to start a second business. So we've been trying to start a second business slowly for about a year. We're calling it Turn 90 Logistics. It's a third-party logistics business model in which we're doing outsourced work for companies, packaging, assembly, kitting, bundling kinds of work. And so we think that this has the potential to really take us to the next level. We know it does. This is going to be our biggest business model, and the print shop is going to be our sort of boutique, sort of heritage business. We just have to get there. And so I think that's a lot of the potential we're looking at heading to Spartanburg. I refuse to open another print shop in Spartanburg. We're not doing that. We're going to open a logistics business. I don't know how. We are going to make it happen. We're going to do it in September. We're going to do it.
Great. So exciting.
And I'll just say one more thing, which is, I think just a little bit off what Malik said, is this is the hard work that we're hoping that we can do and figure out the right business model for this model so that we can gift it. We can say, oh, this is how you did it. We did it in Columbia. We made a lot of mistakes. We're going to do it in Spartanburg. Hopefully we can do it better. Hopefully this is the right business model and something that will scale and work in other communities.
It's amazing. And that really leads me to think about how it's also part of the learning, right? Too. So those men and participants who are in the program and part of the social enterprise are learning as they go. Malik, I'd love to ask you, what is that experience like from your experience now being a mentor and a leader at Turn 90, seeing participants go through and having a job that they're also learning every day alongside?
So like when I go in the morning and like a guy first come home from prison and how they are when they first get to turn 90 and, having to be, being held to the expectations in the print shop, being on time, can't be on your phone, just building up work values. And then like if I take a step back and be like, man, I remember when he first came in the program, quiet, kind of in the shell, but now every day he come in, he's eager, he wants to help out, wants to be hands-on. It makes me feel like, our job is being done, because we building the guys up. So it really thrives me.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. So Kay, we know that the needs that exist in our communities and across the state are still countless. So what challenge would you give to leaders in this room, especially to employers, for moving the needle towards progress and change in South Carolina?
I would just encourage everyone to, challenge yourself to look at things differently. I think that we probably all know people who've made mistakes in their lives, maybe some worse than others, maybe some with more consequences than others. But I think, getting to a place where you're willing to be a second chance employer, look at things differently and realize that people can change and they do change. And being able to just be, like I said, a small part of that is, I think most people want to help other people. I really do. I think it's just sort of part of our DNA. And I think this is just a great opportunity. And it's not just helping, the participants, not just helping the men. It's helping society. It's helping your communities. And it really helps your organization grow and just learn to view things differently. And I'm just, as I said, I'm just very proud to have been able to be part of this experience.
Amazing. I think you were talking about also just the pride that not only you, but really the whole city of Charleston staff has in being a part of this.
They do. I actually learned some things this morning that I didn't know, because when I started getting upset whenever some people started falling out, Amy told me not everybody was going to make it. When I started getting kind of upset about that, but apparently other people were telling her. So, I thank you. I see now how that information traveled, because you do have to realize that there'll be some stumbles along the way, and Amy was wonderful at working with us and helping us realize and not focus on those, but celebrate your successes.
Amazing. Thank you. Brian, you and your team at SCDC have been instrumental in doing the hard work, as you were talking about in the beginning, of examining and changing internal policies and practices that you realized weren't working for the people that you're called to serve, for South Carolina as a whole. So what guidance would you share about what it looks like to make systemic change, and the difference that this change can make both within and beyond our own spheres of work and leadership?
So one of the things when I asked my staff, why are we doing this this way? And the answer is, and they're shaking their head, because we've always done it this way. I said, well, have we thought about doing it any other way? I mean, if you thought about doing this, we thought about doing the drop-offs different, and we thought about partnerships. So I challenged them to kind of change things. And then I know I drive them crazy, but I'll follow up. I'll follow up at a phone call at 6 o'clock at night, or during the day, or what have you, or in a meeting saying, where are we with this? I followed up with Jake a little while ago, and he gave me an update on something. But my biggest thing is just hire good people and let them do their job. And I always tell them, if I'm doing your job, then there's probably someone else that could be doing your job right now. That's not my role. My role is to hire good folks, kind of set the path and let them go, and kind of get out there and work with other agencies, calling the DMV. I'm looking at my notes, so I don't forget anybody. Department of Employment Workforce, DHEC with birth certificates, DEOTIS with the mentorship. I think we've trained 48% of the drug addiction, the MAT mentors in the state right now, who aren't only working in the prisons, they're working across the state. And other Catholic charities, it's kind of simple. What do people need? They need transportation, they need money, they need to work, and they need shelter. So we work with Catholic charities on finding housing. We work with DO and others on the job training, and getting them the addiction treatment issues that they need. And as you were saying earlier, holding people accountable. That's one of the big things that Turn 90 does, is you got to show up and you got to do the right work. So it was, when I took over the department, again, they said, don't come back, we don't want to talk to you again. And I was like, well, they're just going to come back because they don't have a support network out there. So they need that support network. Let's get the families connected. Let's, get this on the right track. And it's really not hard. I mean, keep it simple. Stupid is kind of our principle of find them and the things to knock down the barriers that were out there. And that's exactly what we've been doing with the help of a lot of people. A lot of people inside, a lot of the wardens, folks who are incarcerated, have relationships with their wardens or their captain or something. Call back if you need help. Call back if you need that. If you feel like you're going to backslide, call back and we'll help you get that. Everybody makes, bad choices, they make mistakes. So we're there to support you when you leave. And the state is too.
So I'm going to ask you for some hard numbers around what the systemic change has done. Can you tell us, from the time that you've been working on these changes to now, what does the prison population look like, the recidivism rates, how have they changed?
Sure. So when I took over, the recidivism rate was about 26%. We had about 25,000 people incarcerated, 25 and a half, I think the number was. And we had 7 more prisons than we have now. We've closed down 7 prisons. Our numbers are about 16,541 folks incarcerated as of Monday. So we're down significantly. The recidivism rate is the lowest in the country right now, which is the return to prison rate in 3 years at 17%. And that's exactly what Governor Haley told me that she wanted me to do when I took over, and Governor McMaster has echoed that. And I have to give the legislature credit too. This does not happen without funding. And we've gone to them and said, look, we can save money in the long run. please fund these programs. And they've answered the bell every single time, and it's been in the governor's budget, because you need people to do this. You need support. You can't just do it with the correctional officers. So I saw a study recently. Our recidivism rate has dropped almost 43% since 2008 in South Carolina, and that was the biggest drop in the country. And since 2013, when I took over, it's gone down considerably. And our goal is to keep it going down with what we're doing inside and then supporting people on the outside. But we can't do it without Amy and other programs that she has, and then the business community stepping up and hiring folks. And it's fine to go work somewhere, but I want folks to have careers with benefits and a long career where they can support their family. And I'll end on this. Nothing breaks my heart more than meeting, a dad in prison and then saying, yeah, my dad's incarcerated here, because that is a generational thing, and changing that can be a significant change for South Carolina and make South Carolina so much safer.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So now, with the time we have left, I'd really like to ask and invite Jackie Martin, our Deputy Director, to come back up to the podium to ask a few questions that our audience is interested in knowing from this group. And thank you all. I think those recidivism rates dropping as significantly as they do is worth a round of applause.
Isn't that an amazing story? I hope you all believe in what we're doing here in telling these stories and bringing everyone together around the broadly applicable lessons as well. And I also wanted to, before I proceeded further, I wanted to thank the Riley Institute staff, to Julie, Claudia, Nicole, Kendall, and Allie for making this happen. What an amazing job you've done. And I have just truly enjoyed every part of this. And I'm retiring from the Riley Institute at the end of August, and I feel so good about the team that we're handing the work off to. So thank you so much. Thank you. So a couple of questions. I'll just note that at the Riley Institute, we do believe in evidence-based programming, and I understand that you all are talking about that. So I'm wondering, Amy, if you could speak to your efforts to evaluate Turn 90 and why it is important for you to pursue rigorous program evaluation.
Sure. Yeah, it is very, very important. I think it's really our North Star. It's what's been guiding our growth is so that we can have an impact evaluation. I think for me, it's very personal because I used a lot of other evaluations that have been done and a lot of research in the development of this program. So I felt an immense amount of gratitude and wanting to make my own contribution to the folks that are going to come after us and maybe want to use this. So it is a source of fear, I think, in some ways, because you want to know, but then, oh God, do you really want to know? But I feel like it's my contribution really to the field is to have an evaluation and truly understand what's happening here. So I think it's just very personal for me, and it is a very evidence-informed program. It's very much based on research, and we are finding the intersection between what research tells us works to reduce recidivism and how that actually applies in a practical application in the community. That's where we sit, is in between those two worlds, and I think that's one of the things that makes us really unique and makes this project really important, not just for South Carolina, but for the entire field.
Thank you. I'm going to point this question first toward Amy, and then I wondered if Director Sterling might want to add something to it or others on the panel, but I love this question from Amanda Hamilton at SEETV. How can we build empathy in our communities and networks for people who are or have been incarcerated?
That is such a great question. I don't know if I'm going to hit this straight on, but I think at least for us and all of our partners, like just listening to Brian talk or Judge Gergel or Kay talking about the city, we've all been willing to go outside the traditional lines or the traditional boundaries that have been sort of put on us, right? The whole like, why have we always done it this way, right? Or you had been taught not to do it that way. When things aren't working, right, it takes people that are willing to go outside of those lines and explore what the alternative is. So I'm not sure if that's the direct answer to how do you build empathy for somebody, but I think you have to go over whatever the line is, right? You have to go over. You have to go behind the desk. That was where I got stuck outside of college, was behind the desk, and I had to come out and around it to find out how to build empathy.
And the story I tell, and I tell it to legislatures and others in the rubber chicken circuit, the Rotary clubs, but I say, you know, please close your eyes and think about the last time you're at your table and look across to your mom, grandma, or uncle, or whomever, and put them out in society. Put them at a bus stop, and I'm going to give you two choices of someone to sit next to that person, or you could put them, you know, at a movie theater, library, or, you know, I make the joke about Clemson. I say, hope they didn't go to Clemson, but you could put them at a, you know, restaurant in Clemson. I say you have a choice. You can have two people sitting next to your loved one. You can have someone that's been incarcerated, warehoused, has no future, no hope, likely has a high school, does not have a high school education, likely has anger management issues, maybe mental health issues, and doesn't know where they're going to sleep that night, and has no connection to anybody in society. Or you can have someone who has gotten their GED or their college diploma, has a job, has hope, has a future, is connected with their family, is in treatment for mental health or substance abuse, understands how to deal with, you know, anger issues, and you're going to have people in your life that are going to come across your life who are going to cause some anger, and just how you deal with it. Who do you want sitting next to your loved one? And that then kind of changes the narrative of, oh yeah, you know, I want the second person. I want the productive citizen. I want the safe person. I want the person that's, you know, gone through turn 90 and can kind of rethink how they are, because the first person could harm, you know, potentially my loved one, and it just kind of makes more sense that way. I don't know if that's a direct answer either, but that's kind of how I think of it from that perspective.
Thank you, Director Sterling. I have two questions that actually, before I move on to the next question, I also wanted to again point this audience toward the eventual premiere of the full documentary that is coming out on Turn 90. And again, the name of that is
Turning Point.
Turning Point, SCETV produced, and I'm hoping again that we can do a screening at Furman. But the bit that we saw that we edited down for the clip that we showed you all at the top of this, it's extremely informative and moving, and I'm really looking forward to the whole thing. And I think that kind of storytelling is hugely important in helping people understand where people are coming from and where they're going.
Before I forget, Jake, can you stand up for a sec? Jake Adson. He's our Programs and Services Director. If you're a company and you want to hire and you want to figure out who to hire, please see Jake and his folks, and we can get you connected today. So thank you, Jake.
Yeah, very good. That's great. And that connects to the next two questions that we had that I'll put out there together. This from Katrina Kenny at ATI. Wonderful panel, extremely moving. How can folks in the audience and the community help? Are there volunteer opportunities in Charleston and Columbia? And then from Pam Lackey at Trinity Cathedral, I hear you asking companies to hire Turn 90 graduates. Are there other ways that companies can help? So who would like to begin?
I can answer. I can begin. We have some more traditional ways of getting involved, and then there's out-of-the-box ways. So I say for all the out-of-the-box ways that maybe we don't know what your skills are and your interests are, you just contact us, and the QR code will get you to us. The more traditional ways are becoming a customer of our print shop or our logistics business. We need more logistics business, and printing business. So become a customer, support our social enterprises. It does hire all of our participants and support the program. So that's a direct way. Also, we are working with Director Sterling on a program at Lieber Prison. So if you would like to volunteer inside the prison, please contact me. That's something that's very important to us right now. Those are two very clear ways that you can help. We do also look sometimes for volunteers to help support the men in the program through financial literacy or educational tutoring.
Real practical thing around that. Amy mentioned the QR codes. Look on your programs, the printed programs that are at your table. That's the QR code you need to find all that great
information. That's our Get Involved page. So
yes.
Please get involved.
For the volunteer base, if you want to come in again, that's under Jake and his folks. If you want to volunteer, if you have a company that you need a program trained for and someone can come out and it's a turnkey employee, and I know that's very valuable, we're happy to adopt that program. We've got tablets that we can do the training on. We can do it inside. We've got a school district. We're happy to do any of that. If you want to come in and mentor someone, please do so. We're desperate for that help.
Something for everyone who is interested in being engaged in this work. I think we're out of time now with Q&A. I wanted to say thank you again to our participants from both panels for helping us understand the lessons that Turn 90 teaches us across industries, helping us to consider what this looks like in moving the needle toward progress in South Carolina, and really for the work that everyone here is doing. What an amazing collaboration. So I will thank you and ask you to return to your seats. Just wanted to point to a couple of key takeaways that I had gathered going forward. I think we've heard very strongly here how partners and board have been truly and vitally engaged in Turn 90's growth and success. That has been underlying everything here, this true broad collaboration. Also wanted to point to the theme of organizational learning that has come up again and again here. The pivot in response to new information, the shutdown and the revamp, the new measures that have come into play. I wanted to point, in connection to that, the reframing from an initiative to an employer, and how that is changing how Turn 90 thinks about what they do and how they do it. So those are just a couple of what I think are many valuable lessons coming out of today. I also wanted to say that beyond Turn 90, we recognize and acknowledge that there are many people in this room today who are working on a variety of levels to forge pathways for successful reentry after prison in your local communities and throughout the state of South Carolina. Thank you so much for your work. We also recognize that many of you will leave here today filled with inspiration and ideas for how you may be able to move the needle further. So we've pointed you in various directions on that. Use that QR code. So we are delighted. We are delighted to honor Turn 90 today. At this time, I invite the Riley Institute's Executive Director, Don Gordon, and our very own leader in the fight for equity and justice, former U.S. Secretary of Education and two-term South Carolina Governor Dick Riley, to the stage. Come on up, gentlemen, to present the third annual One South Carolina Partners in Progress Award. Also inviting Amy Barch, Terrence Farrell, and Malik El-Amin to come to the stage to accept this award on behalf of Turn 90.
Thank you, Jackie, and thank you all for being here. It's been a wonderful day and a wonderful purpose, and we've got some real leaders that are involved in the issue. It seems simple, but it's very complex. And I thank you all for participating and being here and realizing the importance of what we're talking about. I think it's made clear today that Turn 90 is indeed a worthy recipient of this main award that the Riley Institute gives every year, that their holistic and immersive approach to reentry into society after prison is indeed promising. It's promising to show 88% of their graduates retaining employment, 78% remaining arrest-free. Isn't that something? The Turn 90 exists to level the playing field for people who have experienced a lifetime of disadvantage. It's hard to understand all of these issues. Their work in South Carolina is part of a bigger vision to create a model of prison re-entry proven to reduce recidivism that can be replicated nationwide. I got up early this morning to come down here, and I'm having a little trouble with these 3-syllable words. This is something that has never been done before, and by disrupting generational cycles of incarceration. Turn 90 is moving the needle on social and economic progress for generations to come. I think it is really exciting to think about what we can do and to think about this one person, Amy. Amy, thank you for your vision, your perseverance, your leadership, your courage, your practical interest in doing something worthwhile. The founder, the executive director of Turn 90. Terrence and Melly, many thanks to you and all of the staff of Turn 90 for your passion and your commitment to this work. It's my pleasure to present Turn 90 with the Riley Institute's 2024 One South Carolina Partners in Progress Award. And it really is a pathway to partners really being in progress. So I want to congratulate the Turn 90 leadership and congratulate all of you for your interest.
We're going to stay on the stage for a few minutes for photographs. Thanks to all of you again for being with us today. Just one more round of applause, and we look forward to seeing you next year at the 2025 Building One South Carolina Forum. Thank you so much. We're going to do some photographs.